Let's talk some
nice.
Ducks.
Yeah.
And an intriguing college football playoff ranking. So before we get to Saturday, we might as well reverse back to Tuesday night. So it stood out that Oregon's a little better regarded among the national polls, the coaches and the AP at number 6, 7 range versus number 9 as the lowest ranked one-loss team out of the SEC or the Big Ten. And obviously, it's all in front of them. They control their destiny without doubt. They could even lose a game. But what are your initial thoughts about Oregon's placing?
Pretty much kind of where we thought it was going to be. I always look at it, from out here on the West Coast. The SEC wants to put as many teams in there as possible. And it looks like they've got 2 teams that are outside of their 2 teams that are going into the championship game weekend. And it looks like for Big Ten, we might have 1 team kind of waiting on the outside. And so I think in the 12-team playoff, that's actually the good place to be. Last year, after going through and being the number 1 seed and then seeing Ohio State in that buzzsaw that was in Pasadena, I think it's a good thing to kind of just be back a little bit and kind of hunt from the back a little bit. And I just really like the idea of trying to get a home game. That's what I really want out of this. If the Ducks can win out, I think they'll be granted with that opportunity.
We could argue all night about which game would be the most advantageous for Oregon to lose between Iowa, USC, and Washington. They have 3 difficult games remaining. You can't throw out Minnesota, but that obviously would be the 4th of the 4. The 3 teams, those 3 are also competing for a playoff spot, not certainly within Oregon's range, but they've got a prayer. They've got to win out and hope. So do you have a thought about, okay, of course, we want the Ducks to win all their games, but if they drop one, which would be the most advantageous in your sight? Because it's a close call.
Right. I'm actually at the point now where I fear if the Ducks drop one, they're not going. And I know that might seem wild.
That was going to be the second part of my question.
Yeah, I don't see it. And I think that I think they need more quality wins. They don't, the best quality win they have on their schedule right now is Northwestern, Mark. And it's not going to cut it. We thought it was going to be the Penn State game. It was an absolute movie when we were out there, and then all of a sudden it felt like, that side of the world just fell apart. And, that's going to do some real damage to the Ducks in their narrative this year. And so they need USC to still be good. They need Washington to still be good at the end of the year. And it's looking good right now. One of the things I was actually more impressed with was how they looked at those teams on the back end, Iowa included, that they put them in the top 25. Because I was really kind of worried about that with the AP. The AP was not really given any love. A lot of 6-2 teams out there. All the 6-2 teams in the SEC were getting in there, but not really from the Big Ten. So I was kind of worried about that as a Big Ten guy. Now, now, Mark, I'm a Big Ten guy. So now we're fully invested.
Yeah, the committee pretty much lined up those 6-2 Big Ten teams right there with me. Yeah, because the thing that you have to consider, of course, and I know that you have, is that if Iowa does drop one of these games, I would think this game at Kinnick would be the one to drop, because the committee is showing us that even though it's a resume ranking from start of the season to finish, that there is a recency bias. And so if Oregon gets this loss out of the way the first weekend of November, or technically the second, and then they finish strong with wins against Washington and USC, and obviously the Ducks are going to hope that USC and Washington are as strong as they possibly can be from a record standpoint, then I think that looks better as a good closing run rather than, maybe losing to USC or losing the rivalry game to Washington and really slipping up. And then obviously those teams have to play difficult games as well. So you're right. If they lose one, then they're really on a slippery slope, not just in justifying their own wins, but having those remaining teams that are good teams maintain their good records is going to be difficult, because as you well know, there's a round robin working here in the last part of the season between Oregon plays USC, USC plays Iowa, Iowa plays Oregon. So they all play each other.
Yeah, it's going to be a wild end of the season. I mean, and that's what people wanted. I mean, conference realigned, we wanted better games. We wanted more games that mattered down the stretch. And obviously, these games matter down the stretch. And there's no gimmies. There's no bye game. There's no bye week. You know, we're done with the bye week. We're ready to go. I think this is going to be a fantastic month. And I actually think the Ducks are poised to win out. I really believe it. I think we've seen really good football from this team. Yes, we've seen them maybe not perform at the highest of highs this year, but we've really never seen them perform at the lowest of lows. And they haven't really come out with a really bad game. Indiana played a really good game against Oregon. And it was still a close game. It was like, oh, they just took them, behind the woodshed. It was a 10-point game. It was and late were those points to stretch it to a 10-point game. So I think in reality, I really like Indiana because I think they play a really complete brand of football. I think for Oregon, they need to be able to piece together a really good offensive game and a good defensive game in the same game. And I think they can play with anybody in the country. I still believe that. But confidence is waning a little bit. I mean, after that Indiana loss, you had a good game against Rutgers, but kind of struggled in the rain against Wisconsin. And, you have some questions going into this Iowa game. Iowa, it does what they do well, and I don't know if Oregon does the counter to that very well. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I think that these teams aren't quite to their nth degree end of the spectrum stereotype, because when we saw this on the schedule, of course, it's Iowa, it's at Kinnick Stadium. They're going to try to slow down the game. They're going to play great defense. Phil Parker's one of the best in the business, and special teams are airtight, and they got one of the best return men that we've seen in recent years. And all of that, all the stereotypes still work for Iowa, but they are better offensively, not good, but they're top 40 in the country in scoring offense. Now, they're not churning out the yards. And Oregon, flash and dash and all of that, they are a more physical team than they are given credit for. So maybe these teams are a little bit more to this center than we play it out to be. It's going to be fascinating, and we're going to see Oregon playing in Kinnick Stadium. This is one of these matchups that we envisioned when the Pac-12 4 were joined to the Big Ten.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think these are the places that we want to go to as well. I mean, these are some of the cathedrals of college football. The Big Ten has all the history, and Oregon does not really have that kind of history. So Oregon's trying to make their brand new history in the Big Ten. I think they started off well. They just need to close it out this year. I really believe that the schedule is set up beautifully for them. If they can be the team that doesn't have to go to Indianapolis, I think that's going to really benefit this team to not have that extra game, to be able to sit and wait a little bit and possibly able to have a home game. I think that really starts the momentum that you're going to need for this playoff run, because the playoffs seem like kind of like their own little mini season.
We got Ryan Winter on the line from Sports Chat 503. Please check it out. It's right here on YouTube. It's only a click away. Talking Oregon Ducks and sizing up this Iowa football team, and the big matchup at Kinnick Stadium should be very intriguing. The Ducks are a 6-point favorite. So the weekend that the Ducks went to Happy Valley and won that game, and obviously our perception of Penn State was much different at that point, I got on here immediately after the game and said, I usually say, these are the storylines, these are the narratives, this is what we found out this week, and it's focused on teams. But I focused it on Dante Moore because they said, finally, we got to see what this kid is made of, because, in college football time, it seems like it was forever that he was a 5-star coming out of high school, signed at UCLA, got like spot duty there. Then, of course, sat for a season under Dylan Gabriel at Oregon. Now we finally get to see him, and he lights up the world, but it's against Oklahoma State and some middling competition in the big. So finally he gets the showcase game, and lo and behold, he's as good as advertised, and he really is a top-flight quarterback.
Yeah, and that's what we all thought as well, and I think we still do. I think we still believe he's a very unique player, and I think, when we like to point fingers as fans, some people like to point fingers immediately at offensive coordinator, right? It's one of the first picks. Will Stein was everybody's favorite offensive coordinator one week. How can he be that bad the next week? So I think you have to tip the cap to the opposition. I think the people coming out to play at Oregon, and they're pulling out all the stops. I think there is a blueprint out there to how to slow down this team and keep everything in front of you. And Oregon will kind of play into that. I mean, even in the Indiana game, they were running the ball pretty well, and they kind of went away from it and went to the screen passes and got hung up in 3rd and long. And it was kind of a pin your ears back kind of moment. I think it played into that Indiana defense that's lighter, that likes to fly around. Everybody talks about how Oregon was bigger in the trenches. That doesn't mean anything when those guys are coming on a spin move on your tackle and collapsing that pocket. So Dante Moore, when he has a clean pocket and he has room to work, great quarterback, man. He can put it on it. He can throw the deep ball. But I don't think Oregon has really stretched the vertical passing game enough this year. If I could have one complaint there, and I think they've leaned in, a little bit too much on the screen passes. Have a lot of great athletes at Oregon, and there's a lot of really good speed on the edges. So I get why they want to get those guys the ball in space. But these defenses, I think, are a little keen to it, and so I think it's going to be a tough run the rest of the way. But I don't think after the Iowa game, I don't think there's going to be a defense the rest of the way until the playoffs that would test Iowa on that level, because I think Iowa is going to be the best defense on the schedule.
Of course, Decorian Moore's a weapon. Evan Stewart was lost in the offseason leading into the season opener. Kenyon Sadiq is a top tight end, and he's a weapon and a mismatch for a lot of defenses. I notice at the running back position, and I got to admit, I've probably watched less Oregon football this year than I would normally have at this season, just at this point in the season, just because of the competition.
Sure.
I wasn't going to waste my time with 66-3 or whatever it was against Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
The Penn State game, I was doing other things, but I locked in on fourth quarter and overtime, and that's been pretty much, I started watching the Wisconsin game, and anyway, what I wanted to hit on was the running back position. When I looked at the stats, I'm seeing like 4 guys with 40 carries, including the quarterback, Dante Moore. What's happened with the running back room? Because we're familiar with Noah Whittington, and he's got a great yards per carry average. Has he been nicked up?
Yeah, so kind of a wild running back room. Super deep. 2 freshmen that are probably your 2 best players in the room at this point. Kind of a thunder and lightning that we really didn't know we were going to get. We had high hopes. Noah came back off the injury last year and was out for most of the whole year last year. The knee injury. Came back and kind of was one of those guys who senior year going to get the starting nod. Really good player out of the backfield, catching the ball. Really good, turn, plant your foot type of guy. Good in space. Maybe not as good between the tackles, but still pretty good between the tackles. Then you have Jaden Lamar, who was the backup, who is kind of more of the muscle hamster type, strong running back, just an absolute bull, but still a little bit light on his feet. Everybody has to be a little bit light on their feet in this running game. And then you have the 2 freshmen, and the 2 freshmen is Jordan Davidson and Dier Hill. And both these guys, I think, represent kind of the future of Oregon. This Oregon team is very young. A lot of really young players. And these 2 players right now, they're the best running backs. And I don't know which one's better at any given time, but Jordan Davidson has come out right away and been the heavier back, scored a lot of touchdowns really early on, but also has broken off some pretty good yardage as well through the line of scrimmage. Has got nice patience, waits for the block to open up, and then really gets after it. So I just love the energy of the young guys. And, you got Dante Moore, like you said, who hasn't played a lot. I mean, he's been around and he's been practicing for years. He's been involved with programs for years, but on the field, putting up real tape. And so now he's got an opportunity to be with Decorian Moore, who's a really good freshman wide receiver, 2 really good freshman running backs. And I think the sky's the limit for the Ducks.
I am not selling the Iowa offense as prolific in any such way. However, it's at least functional. This has been a team, and I don't know how much you've paid attention from your Pac-12 situation out there, but it's
West
just
Coast bias.
the most ludicrous situation for 3 to 4 years at Iowa, where the defense almost outscored the offense.
Yeah.
And with the defense and the special teams, like the offense routinely in the bottom of 3 or 4 in the nation, and they're fielding, top 3 defenses. It's just the strangest dichotomy anywhere in football year after year after year. Finally, they've somewhat broken out of that, still have the great defense and special teams, but the quarterback is at least functional, and he's a running threat. How does Oregon do against running quarterbacks? Because this Mark Gronowski had 130 yards against Penn State on the ground.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. I think Oregon has had some trouble in their run fits a little bit, especially that outside zone. And I know these guys like to go with that, and they like to kind of freeze those edge players a little bit. I think going into the season, I think people were very high on the defensive ends, and I think that like people often do with us, we love to talk all summer. We just build up such hype. We build up such high expectations. And we go off of some really good things that happened last year. And one example is Mateo Uyunglele had 10 sacks last year, led the Big Ten. And I think at this point in time, Oregon maybe only has like 13 sacks as a team. So hasn't really got the same sort of production off the edges that we kind of thought. Two really good players, Tatum Teote on one side and Mateo Uyunglele on the other side. Really good players. But they've also done a little bit more to try to get in the run fit, containment instead of going after. And also you have to understand, there were some really good guys on that defensive line last year for Oregon. They all went to the NFL. So you got. I think for Oregon, you got to believe you can get up there and stop the run against Iowa. At least try to make them at least one-dimensional if you can. I think they actually pass the ball better than people give them credit for. I from what I've watched, they've hit the open man. It might be some short stuff, but they've been able to get over the top a couple of times. They just don't do it that often. And they don't have to because they have such a good running game, and they're probably the best offensive line in the country. So, I mean, you're talking about a variety of things that are kind of working against the Ducks. But I would hope that the Ducks' athleticism, the Ducks' abilities to use speed and space might be able to equalize some of that and be able to get out and break a couple plays. But I do think it's going to be a low-scoring game, and I do think it's going to be close late in the fourth quarter.
And this has been missed by some. The team that by far gave Indiana its toughest game, 13 all with 90 seconds left in the game, Iowa, Indiana. And Iowa starting quarterback Mark Gronowski missed the entire fourth quarter, and his backup was not good. No. Like, there was a significant dropout. I'm not going to make it some kind of crazy call that such and such would have happened, but you never know. Iowa, without its starting quarterback, they missed a screen pass that probably would have been a touchdown to take a touchdown lead with about 2 minutes left in that game. Then they missed the field goal. And because of the game situation, they sold out on defense, and that led to the game-winning touchdown. So Iowa played Indiana to the hilt. So that's our one comparison of a game. At this point, actually, we've got other ones. It's kind of funny if you look at the schedule. They both played Rutgers, Penn State, and Wisconsin as well just in the last few weeks. So we've got 4 common opponents, and I've actually done the math on that. So we'll get to that a little bit later. Ryan, we appreciate you being here. We want to get everyone on over to Sports Chat 503. Any particular videos or live streams you'd like to point people to?
Oh, man, we always do the live stream Tuesday nights, 5:30 on the Pacific Coast time. That's always a fun one. We do about 2 hours usually during the regular season. Sometimes it can stretch to 3 hours. We have a lot of fun. Built a really good community out here, real positive. Sports Chat 503 Familia, which you're a part of, Mark, by the way. Again, love what you do for college football. Can't thank you enough. But yeah, I just do videos. Each week I cover the Ducks. I'm not a media guy. I'm a fan. I'm a dad. My son goes there. My whole family's from there. My whole family went there. And yeah, I just love what we do. And I go to as many games as possible. And I try to have as much fun as possible. So what's wrong with that, right, Mark?
We appreciate you, Ryan. I always love, that you love the Pac-12, even though it's now defunct, that you love your Oregon Ducks, but give total respect to the opponent and all of college football.